The internet. It's this fabulous piece of technology that has created more millionaires and billionaires in the last 3 decades than all of human history put together. I mean, quite honestly, when I think about it, I don't think anything quite compares to the magic of the internet, because it has allowed the opportunity for normal everyday people like us to build and accumulate wealth. One such person who managed to do this is none other than Jeff Bezos. And it wasn't luck or generational wealth that made him successful. If there was ever a mathematical formula to becoming a billionaire, this would be it. So how did he do it? And what can we learn from this legendary billionaire? Born on January 12, 1964, Jeffrey Preston Bezos, the person we know today as Amazon's founder and the richest man on the planet, came from a rather humble background. His parents had him when they were just 17 and 18 at the time. The thing is, Bezos did not come from a wealthy family either. His father at the time worked a retail job, barely making more than $1 an hour, which by all accounts would be considered nothing short of slavery by today's standards. Not only that, but his father was also an alcoholic who squandered the family's money. Jeff's mother eventually divorced her husband just 17 months into the marriage. I mean, what did you expect? His parents were just teenagers after all, and not exactly the age group known for their decision-making capabilities. While all of this might sound like a precursor to some serious childhood trauma, Jeff Bezos went on to create the largest e-com company in the world, the company we know today as Amazon.com. You see, the driving force behind Jeff's success was his attitude towards work. He started working at an early age. He worked at his grandfather's ranch as a farmhand and then later worked a summer at McDonald's as a burger boy. While a McDonald's job might seem demeaning to some, a 16-year-old Jeff used this opportunity to learn about automation and customer service. His obsession over customer service would later become a core principle upon which Amazon was built. In an interview, Bezos stated that you can learn responsibility in any job if you take it seriously. You learn a lot as a teenager working at McDonald's. It's no doubt that he had remarkable work ethic. During the early days of Amazon, 12-hour days, 7 days a week was the norm. Bezos would personally stay up until 3 a.m. packing books to be shipped the next morning. According to this book, The Everything Store, it is said that even after Amazon became an e-commerce giant, Bezos was so obsessed with customer satisfaction that he would personally email his team about customer service issues and have them present directly to him about how they were going to solve their problem. Let's be honest, to a lot of people, this might come across as micromanaging, but he was a boss who was passionate about his work and his company. Apart from his relentless work ethic, Jeff was also academically gifted, graduating from Princeton University with the highest possible distinction. It was during a work assignment in 1994, Bezos came to know that the internet grew by nearly 2,300% in just 1 year. And this was when he had his light bulb moment. He came up with a list of 20 products to sell online and decided on books. This was the birth of Amazon.com. So Bezos had decided he was going to quit his job to focus on a startup. Even though his boss persuaded him to stay, he was determined more than ever to give this a go rather than miss the opportunity and regret it later. Amazon initially started out of a garage in Seattle, with the founder, his wife, and 2 programmers being the only employees. During the startup years, Bezos estimated about $74 million in sales by the year 2000. However, he far underestimated the reality, and Amazon went on to make $1.6 billion in sales in 1999 alone. Unfortunately though, the road to fame and fortune would not be an easy one. So in a bold move, he offered 20% of Amazon equity for just $1 million. Today, that 20% would be worth a mind-boggling sum of money, almost $340 billion. But the problems didn't end there. This tiny little startup was also threatened by lawsuits from Barnes & Noble and later from Walmart. However, despite these setbacks, Amazon continued to grow and was one of the few companies that survived the dot-com burst. The spectacular growth of Amazon was driven by its philosophy of constant innovation and improvement. For example, Amazon's one-click ordering system was a game changer. This was something unheard of back in 1999. Amazon was a trendsetter, and this is how the company grew to $1.7 trillion in market cap in the span of just 20 years. While most people might only see the successes of Jeff Bezos and his company, there were many failed ventures to his name. To start, Amazon had invested nearly $175 million into Living Social, a Groupon rival that was later acquired by Groupon themselves in October of 2016 for just $0. Then there was the nearly $110 million that Amazon invested into Pets.com and Cosmo.com. Each of them closed down just a few years later. If that wasn't enough, one of Amazon's biggest failures was the Fire phone. The company had invested an enormous amount of money in a phone that turned out to be a major flop, forcing the company to write off nearly $170 million in unsold phones. When you come to think of it, these setbacks might seem enormous to any average businessman. But to Jeff Bezos, these multi-billion-dollar failures were actually critical to Amazon's success. For example, even though the Fire phone was a massive fail, the work done on the product assisted in the development of Amazon's Echo Smart speakers and Alexa. This philosophy that it's better to have failed than to have never tried in the first place was at the very nature of the man himself, something that he called the regret minimization framework. Now at the age of 58, Jeff Bezos is sitting on an enormous amount of wealth, valued at nearly $180 billion. He spends this wealth doing philanthropy, traveling around the world in his $500 million yacht, and working on his newest space venture. But it's no doubt that he worked pretty hard most of his life through his 30s and 40s to be where he's at today. So what can we learn from this visionary founder? The first important lesson is to take calculated risks. You see, Jeff Bezos had a relatively comfortable life working as VP for a hedge fund, and no doubt he must have made quite a bit of money too. Most people in his position might have stopped trying by this point, but working a 9-to-5 job, even as an investment banker, is not how you become a billionaire. He took a big risk by leaving his high-paying job and starting Amazon. And here's the first lesson for us budding entrepreneurs. Life is a gamble. If you want to realize your dreams, you have to be willing to take calculated risks. The next crucial lesson is to never stop learning or innovating. When Amazon was just a startup with like 3 employees, they were going up against Walmart, a multi-billion-dollar giant. Despite the competition, Amazon claimed market domination by constantly innovating. Because let's be honest, the internet is littered with billion-dollar companies that ended up in a grave just because they stopped innovating. The third and most important lesson we can learn from Jeff Bezos is to never be afraid of failure. Amazon has incurred billions of dollars in failed ventures and products, and yet Bezos believes it to be a good thing, going as far as to write a letter to shareholders stating that if the size of your failures isn't growing, you're not going to be inventing at a size that can actually move the needle. And this, folks, is the single biggest difference between successful people and the rest of the world. They don't see failure as failure, but rather as a learning opportunity. Well, I hope you got some inspiration watching this video on how Jeff Bezos grew Amazon from just an idea to a $1 trillion company that it is today. Who knows, maybe someday you too might be a billionaire. The reality is, thanks to the internet, it's never been easier than now to build enormous amounts of wealth. So get out there and keep hustling.